5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Say, kids, what time is it?
There's something else.
My vibe is comedy. I discovered my vibe in 3rd grade, maybe, when my teacher bent over and farted and I made a joke about it. I started doing stand-up at 21, so I kind of finally jumped into those shoes around that time. Make money! I'm broke, son! Are you feeling my vibe? You better be feeling my vibe, son. I'm working like a monkey over here. I need money!
But yeah, we have Marcel Williams here from Streets, and thanks again, bro.
Absolutely.
For having me
Any
down.
cheap, shameless exposure plugs I can get, son.
That's right. You know, you saying we cheap?
No, I'm saying I'm broke.
Okay.
And I could use a little bit more exposure, is what I'm saying.
No, I wanted to I wanted to do this interview for a while. As many of people may know or may not know, you were instrumental with helping us with the cookout.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a tremendous success. People had fun. They're still raving about it, talking about your dance-off with the kid that you lost, by the way.
I'm still recovering from that dance-off.
8 or 9.
Emotionally and physically, I'm recovering from that dance-off. No, that's fun, though. I mean, like, whenever people put, like, any, like, community stuff together where people can just come out, have a great time, and just show that we're not as scary as a city as people like to make it seem to be.
Right.
I mean, we are scary from time to time, but for the most part, I mean, like, yeah, getting the kids together with the adults and just having, like, give away balloons and tattoos and just see them light up and dance on the stage like it's their moment and whatever else is it's all good. So I appreciate being able to be a part of that.
Yeah,
so.
well, we appreciate having you, man. It was a good time. Now, we're talking about passion here. We're talking about your vibe, and your vibe is comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me the decision-making, the ups and downs of comedy that kind of led you to Streets.
Pretty much how it led me to Streets was I'm always been known to be like this overly obnoxious dude who always loves attention. I mean, everyone kind of likes attention to a certain extent, depending on what it is that you're trying to do. But for me, I started off with one of my friends. He's like, oh, I build websites, and then we did the whole no sex campaign, which gained a lot of attention, and it was just something that's like, again, at first I just started off just doing just kind of for fun, but then it became serious. People started finding morals and lessons within it, and then I started learning for myself and whatever else. But another thing that I would throw onto the site to promote would be my stand-up comedy, and then that got pretty popular, and then this year, because of Streets, it gave me #2 funniest person in Manitoba or whatever that contest was through Uptown, and then being able to do the funniest person with a day job contest and then land in the finals this year too was pretty good. So, I mean, I've been doing comedy, like I've only like started doing stand-up maybe when I was maybe 21, 22, but I started actually doing like improv and whatnot when I was in high school, and it's always just been one of those things where when I was voted class clown, I just like love to make people laugh. I like to crack jokes and make fun of people, so
eases its way in, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about this. You're here with Streets now. You're hilarious on the radio. Do a great job on the radio. Obviously, you're not scared of the mic or nothing like that. No. Not scared of the crowd. How do we allow for other local performers and local talent to kind of find their dream through that avenue? Whether it be comedy, music, TV show, whatever. How do we get there?
You first need to believe in yourself, because I didn't believe in myself when it came to stand-up at first, where I had a friend who had to tell me about an open mic. I went and checked it out. I'm like, I could do this. And then I did a quick 5, and it was terrible. So I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But once you know that you're actually like, this is what I enjoy doing, when you're in a group of friends, you like making them laugh, or if you can sing and you see their expression on their face, or if you're a rapper and you get people's chills and like to get them all hyped up, you know that at that point you want to do it because you see the people around you who have that genuine response of just admiration of what it is that you're doing. So you don't necessarily only want to do it for yourself, but you also want to push others to see, oh, if he can do it with his comedy or with his music, I can do it with my arithmetic and with my whatever, my medicine, right? So like for me, like doing comedy was the one thing that I it just came natural to me, and like I've tried the whole post-secondary stuff, and I mean, some people, they're great at it, and I hope they become lawyers so that they can protect my stupid ass when I do some nonsense in the future, right? But for me, I've always just been that I gotta do something crazy, and I just gotta be.
So you're already planning the TMZ.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already getting hit up, like, even just locally, people from the Free Press will just have a conversation with them, and all of a sudden it's like, here, by the way, Marcel's dating somebody.
Yeah.
By the way, and I'm like, whoa, when did I become media takeout all of a sudden? Dirty.com, and it just gets overwhelmed, but.
Right.
No, I don't know, I mean, you gotta find your passion. You gotta, a lot of people try to force their passion, but that's not the route you gotta do. You can't do it because somebody else is doing it, or because somebody else said that they couldn't do it. Like, do it because yourself it's something that you like. For me, I grew up watching In Living Color and watching Chris Rock and watching Eddie Murphy's specials and stuff. So I always just liked the way that they just carried themselves and like the fun that they had, and it was just them and a microphone. Like, I admire those who can go up on with a group with like instruments and like different like backup singers and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I was mostly impressed with the fact that if you fail, there's nobody to help you out. If you succeed, you get all of the credit. It's one of those things where it's a catch-22 in the sense that, like, it seems like, oh, this guy's so easy doing it, whatever, but Kevin Hart will go on a tour, make $8 million, and all of a sudden, like, he's just like, he's this huge conglomerate and whatever else, but he did it by himself. He didn't need, like, 7 dudes to come up with him in the background and be like, yo, I got to back up for that joke. It's like, no, you're by yourself. But if you fail and you become Carrot Top and you make all these props and whatever else, he can't go and look, well, this guy's the one who screwed up my career. It's like, nah, it's just you. So it's a risk that you're taking, but it's rewarding.
It is definitely rewarding. So you had a campaign that you weren't going to do no sex for how long?
For a year.
For a year.
It was a New Year's resolution.
And it was blown up big.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Got big, got major plugs. Free Press was covering you. Didn't you go to CNN too or something like that? You went
CNN,
went
ABC
to Atlanta?
covered it. No, I didn't go there.
Oh, okay.
What they did is that CBC had covered the story, and then they took it and they put it on, they streamed it on their station and on the website and stuff too. So
what was that like? You just trying to do something for you, and then all of a sudden...
Well, that was the thing. Like, I knew it was gonna gain like a little bit of publicity, like locally, just because it's something that nobody in Winnipeg has done. But then I didn't grasp, like, nobody's really even documented this in the world necessarily, right? So.
Right.
The way I found out it even landed on CNN was that the friend who did the website, he got a call from his brother in Kenya being like, yo, I just seen Marcel on CNN. So the fact that somebody in Kenya was watching it, and then, no word of a lie, just this week, I didn't realize that Facebook has this other folder that, like, it's called Others, and it's just, like, spam or whatever. There was a bunch of people from the States who had hit me up being like, oh, I'm from Missouri, and I'm from Atlanta, and whatever else, and, like, I was inspired by this, and, like, some dude was like, he hit me up, and he was like, he's like, I'm the real 40-year-old virgin in America, or something like that. And like, it was just kind of interesting seeing like their perspective on what it is that I did that kind of touched them or like inspired them or let them know that what they were doing was okay.
So you like created a movement.
It was a little bit of a movement. The one disappointing thing that I thought for myself, not being that dude who's like, oh, this is gonna be revolutionary or whatever, but like I kind of was hoping that like some people would gain a little bit more respect in the sense that. They'd be like, okay, well, he's doing something positive, and like it's spreading a good message. Like, I've never lied to anyone and said that, oh, I'm a perfect saint and whatever. I did shenanigans still during the year of no sex. Like, I stayed true to the things that I said I wouldn't do, but like I still had fun, and there's a way of having fun and holding a balance. And that was the biggest thing I learned from the year was that you can have fun so long as you know you're being safe and you're not hurting anyone and you're not compromising and whatever. So. I was kind of like I pitched it to like a couple of schools and stuff to be able to go talk to them and like the students and just be like, because like let's be honest, like you growing up you see those sexual education videos, it's like, oh Lord, I've got syphilis and like, oh, what am I gonna do? And it's so dated and kids can't relate to it. So like if you have a younger dude going in there being like, look, I'm not trying to preach to you, I'm just trying to tell you like this is what I've learned from the situation. If you want to gain something from it, by all means, or whatever else, right? So. I was hoping that is where it would snowball into, but kind of just, I don't know, fell flat. Like, I went into and spoke to a few women's groups and stuff or whatever, and they gained, like, a lot from it and whatnot, and that was rewarding for me, just seeing me just doing something or just not doing something inspire somebody else, and that was, like, the biggest reward for me. So.
That's huge. That is huge. So, you gain this celebrity status, right? Local celebrity status?
D-list celebrity status,
okay,
absolutely.
Yeah, D-list. What's
I'll
that
take
about?
That.
What is that about anyway?
You saw the video. Did you see that video? Okay, that was just us poking fun. Like, well, like I honestly, and if I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, I do not like the term local celebrity.
I hate it.
I find it to be like a terrible stigma to have because nobody wants to be just a celebrity locally. Right. That's like saying like, oh, I'm the mayor of this town that you've never heard of. And it's like, well, that's not really a cred that you really want, right? Like, if you're a celebrity, then it's like, oh, great, like people admire you. But like, I've never been really one for fame so much as turning fame into fortune, because for me it's more so building a brand so that I can one day milk that brand and whatever else, right? I'm not trying to be like, everybody should know me and how broke I am. That's terrible for me. It's like, I'd rather have fortune and nobody know who I am than just be that dude who everybody knows and can't pay his bills.
Right,
so,
right. And then fronting like you got the
it'd be nice to have a nice balance where like you're flossing on people like, you know me and you know I can do this. That's cool, but like, I don't know, I like the whole like local celebrity thing. So of course we were just poking fun of each other, like me and Peter Takis from Local Advancers. Shout out to him doing big things at 17. But
that kid's doing
he like we just clown ourselves because it's like people, we know to a certain extent people know who we are, but like we don't like going around being like, hey, let me into this club because you should know who I am. So we just clown around and be like, we're D-list celebrities because at the end of the day, like some of you know us, some of us don't, so we're not gonna go move around wait like we're somebody. So but if I do get there one day, expect to let me in your clubs for free, son. If I am selling out DVDs in theaters.
Shout out to Jack.
That's right. I see you, son.
See you, Jack.
I see you.
Yeah, no, that's good. So you have a vibe. You're doing it. You're building on your passions. You're making moves. Now, what is Winnipeg lacking? Careful now.
I know. I'm like, wait, Winnipeg is watching this, right? Yeah. No. It's not necessarily that Winnipeg is lacking. Is that Winnipeg just needs to, and maybe this is the thing that's lacking, is just support. Like, we need to support each other because I find that when I go to different cities, and it doesn't matter necessarily what the genre is, if it's comedy, if it's music, dance, whatever, in the comedy scene in Winnipeg, I find that it's got a very, very nice support base in the sense that, like, a lot of my friends who are comedians, we don't rival against each other. We don't want to see each other fail. Like, if I've got an opportunity for them, I'm like, hey, by the way, they're casting for this or whatever, you should jump in this. And we help each other out. And then, like, in the music scene, what I find that there's lacking is that even just through Twitter accounts or like Facebook or whatever, you'll see certain artists who will support each other and they become like little cliques or whatever. And then if you're not part of that clique, then you're like, okay, and then you try to sabotage those. Because I've had people tell me that they've purposely gone into people's release parties and messed it up just because they didn't want them to get that whatever, right? So I mean, like, if we could all just work as a whole to try to get Winnipeg on the map and just get the proper exposure it deserves, then I feel like it won't even be an issue as far as Winnipeg being a place because the talent is there.
Oh, for sure.
But the cohesiveness as far as like the talent working together doesn't really necessarily exist because I mean, within New York, there's going to be some artists that fall flat and whatever else, but there's a huge, like, that's the hub of hip hop, and it's for a reason, is because a lot of the artists will come and help each other. Yeah, there'll be little clips like, the Dipset's here, and then you've got your Rock Nation there, and whatever. But like, at the end of the day, like, they're making that music and it's a New York sound and they can appreciate it.
But do you think it's because they're getting paid? Like like money, I don't want to say, people are going to look at me, money's the root of all evil, try. But at the end of the day, it's like, that working together, despite your feelings, means that you're going to put some money in your pocket and it's hope that the project is positive.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think what happens here is that a lot of people are not getting money. So when somebody gets their shine on, the other person wants to sabotage that shine because they feel, well, I've been in this for this long and whatever else, right?
And no, absolutely. And I totally agree with that. And I see where they're coming from in the sense that, like, they've grinded so hard. So when they start seeing these young dudes come in and start whatever, but that's not just Winnipeg, though. That's everywhere where that happens. Like,
and they got to get it in their head.
And they have to. And you have to understand that, like, and who was it that I was watching an interview with on the Breakfast Club, and they were talking to an older person. Like, it wasn't T.I., it was somebody else, though, who was, like, a veteran in the game. And, like, the way that they were explaining it, that they can't necessarily be mad. Oh, you know who was Missy Elliott and Timbaland. They were talking to them because the whole discussion of these new artists that were coming in and just going around making all this money, and some of the older MCs were getting angry, like, who are these young pups or whatever, and kind of closing them off, like DMXs and stuff, who were just like so close-minded because they come from that generation. But it's one of those things where, like, you've paved the way for these guys. You should be happy to let them grow. And to an extent, ride off of their success. Granted, of course, you become this iconic person who whatever, you feel like you shouldn't have to leech off these young guys, but that's the way it works in the industry, is that if you want to stay relevant, you got to go with these young guys. That's why Jay-Z's got his Rihannas, and he scooped up a Kanye West who's now got the good music and whatever else.
Right.
He's continuously relevant. And, like, Nas, like, as great as an MC, debatably one of the greatest MCs ever, the reason why he kind of fell flat in certain times, he didn't have a huge support base.
Right.
He doesn't have like a younger demographic that he can rely on. But again, his talent speaks for its own, which is why he's still relevant. But then there's other dudes like Nelly and like whatever. The St. Lunatics weren't strong enough to keep him to where he's at now because they fell flat, so then he's falling flat.
Yeah,
so
you had to drop him off.
You need a support base. But yeah, as far as the financial aspect of it though, like there's not a huge market in Winnipeg for financial stuff. Like, I'm seeing the shows that are being brought here, and it's because when you've got a certain opener who's bringing in his crowd, that's all you're going to get for that show. But if everyone worked together and there wasn't just like 19 different crowds and we had one, the hip-hop shows would be huge, meaning there'd be more hip-hop shows coming, meaning there'd be more opportunities for opening acts for artists, and everybody would get their
So
their
does there
chance
need to be like a label, a head label, or a couple of labels here in Winnipeg so that these artists can feel supported, so that they're working together? Or does it just need to be a conversation of, because, you know, shout out to Tracy Koga, because she did this, right, over at Shaw.
Okay.
They sat down, they had a few artists there, and they sat down together, and they all were talking about coming together. So it's there, the conversation is there, but I'm wondering, how do you take it to the next step? Because some people are just bad-minded on Marcel. Man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know what you mean as far as, like, and I don't think the solution is to grab a bunch, like, to just micromanage everyone under these different, like, subdivisions of one massive label or whatever.
Right.
I think that they could all have their individual labels, but when it comes down to it, all have the same, like, motivation as far as accumulating one fan base. Because, like, when you've got... and I'm not name dropping to say that these guys aren't cohesive with whatever, but I'm just saying, like, let's say for a CTL and a Heat Bag and then an EMB and then a Gladiator, whatever, who's to say that, like, they can't all have their different, like, a certain person who will like Young Kid might not necessarily like ROZ, but who's to say that they can't work together to kind of bring in all those crowds together, right? And I'm not saying that these people aren't working together. I see some people from CTL working with Gladiators and ROZ working with certain people from these camps or whatever. There is, like, some cohesiveness here and there, but, like, there's always a disconnect at some point where it's, like, it just becomes a barrier for new artists. They feel like, oh, I can't work with this artist now because of that. And why is there, like, that much tension when you guys are all from the same vicinity? Like,
that's right.
It's not that huge. We're not even 1 million people in this city for us to be like, okay, well, there's this many artists and we can't all work together.
And it's like, I'm going to see you out.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, I'm going to see you somewhere, just driving.
Absolutely. At the supermarket. I bumped into MCs literally at Safeway.
Yeah.
I went to go scoop up flowers for my girl, and all of a sudden I see Lotto with holding a basket, grabbing some groceries, and I'm like, okay, cool. And, like, you're going to see each other out, so, like, there's no sense in just, like, being screw-faced about it or whatever. And, like, that's why I try to stay as level-headed with a majority of artists and just stay on a neutral playing ground because a lot of people catch feelings, and it doesn't take much at all. It could be something as small as spins or not doing a video or this person's doing this show and whatever, and it just becomes this huge snowball, but everything comes back around eventually. I've seen certain artists where they've gone and maced somebody's CD release party, and then later on, 8 years down the line, they're not producing that person's album.
Wow.
True story. And it's one of those things where it's like, Winnipeg is too small for that, so just don't waste those 8 years.
Yeah, it does
just
make
get...
sense.
Get over whatever hurdles you have, and, like, I mean, if it's something on a personal level or whatever the case is, then deal with that as grown human beings. But, like, if it's as far as just the music, like, oh, I don't want this person to get shine because I've got a project coming out, that's backwards. Time your stuff accordingly. The same way, like, you don't want to step on toes in a comedy room where you have 2 shows going at the same night or whatever at the same time. You don't want that to happen, so you have a conversation about it. Be like, look, I'll push mine a month back, and then we'll each be able to eat and use both our demographics to promote one thing, rather than just, oh, no, I'm going to eat now and I'm going to take away from your food. Like, why? There's enough out there for everybody to eat. So
Exactly. So do you feel like the same system happens in other conglomerates? Like, we're talking on a city level, artists to artists are having problems. What about, you know, the bosses out there? Do you feel like, because it's generation now, right? We are who else? Who else is doing it?
We are the future right now. The children are the future. We're those children.
So we got to bust the head of some old guys and some old girls out there too, don't we?
I mean, yeah, but again, like, it's one of those things where you can't necessarily point the finger at the big boss because that's such an easy thing to do, because they're trying to like, if we're talking, I don't know, maybe I should just give an example. For example, like radio or whatever, where people are always like, oh, well, I'm not getting spins because you guys don't want us to get spins. But the thing that people don't necessarily understand is that they see like one thing. They're like, I'm a local artist. This is a local station. I've got local music. I should be getting spins.
Right.
And that's to the extent of where they thought that through. But what they don't understand is, yes, it's a local station. Yes, you are a local artist, and we do absolutely love local artists and have a certain amount of percentage that we have to play of Canadian music.
Say that in the camera.
We have a certain amount of Canadian music that we have to play. We do love local artists, but what you don't understand is that in the 40% of music that is Canadian music, you're not only just competing with the local artists that are there, you're also competing with the Drakes, the Classifieds, the Swollen Members, the Cardinal Officials, the Weeknd. You're competing with anyone who's mainstream but Canadian as well. So when your track only gets one spin or whatever, or if it gets like a spun for a certain amount of time and then fizzles out and you hear this other artist getting whatever, don't take that as, oh, these guys have favorites or these guys are whatever. It's no. What is it that you can do to get more spins?
Right.
What is it that you can do as an artist to make sure that your product is in high demand? I can name artists off the top of my head right now who are getting solid rotation, and it's not because of favoritism. It's not because of any behind-the-scenes politics. It's because their music speaks volumes. Their music, you could tell the production behind it had funding. Right. You could tell that the artist spent time with their delivery, with their lyricism, whatever the case is, and it's a high-quality product. We as a station, as much as we want to put on every artist that comes from Winnipeg, if every artist is getting shine, and let's say that you've got 40 artists, and out of those 40 artists, only 5 of them are getting studio time, those 35 artists will take away from those 5 artists who are putting in all that effort. So you've now got these 5 artists who are upset saying, well, I've worked so hard and invested so much of my hard-earned dollars into the studio time and into my music, into the album artwork and everything else, but these artists, because they're from here and they breathe the same air and they drink the same water, they also are entitled to the same amount of spins.
Right.
So then how do you please those people who are like, well, how come you guys played my song last time? And then you get used to it. And then like they want favors because they've come down to you and they met you and you're cool and nice to them. So like, we're friends. How come you're not playing my stuff? And it's like, well, no, like I'm being kind to you because I'm a human being and I have respect for everyone who comes up to me with a cool face. So like for me, it's just one of those things where you can't please all people all the time, obviously. But people need to just work for like the same goal, like the same quality. Like you shouldn't just demand things because you're a certain person or because you feel that your thing is whatever. Just take constructive criticism. And I've told artists before, step up your bars, and they have, and they've become quite successful from it. I've had other artists where I've told them step up their bars, and they catch feelings, and then what do? They find ways of just like pooling in more negativity rather than fix what it is that I told them to fix. If you don't value my opinion, don't let it get you cheesed. Right. Don't let it get under your skin if you don't value my opinion. If you do value my opinion, take it constructively and maybe even follow up and say, well, how can I do this or whatever? Because I've given people information and input as far as how they can go, where they can go, and whatever else. But if you're not willing to do that, and I don't know, if you want to develop, you can develop. It's up to you at the end of the day.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Take that from that. But as far as the big heads being the ones saying no, they've got their own issues to deal with. They've got, okay, are we bringing in enough money so that we can continue funding this station? And the music is like the smallest. That's why they have subdivisions of the program directors and music directors and whatever else, is because that's their responsibility and it's based on their judgments. If you want to call it favoritism, whatever it is, well then appeal to somebody else. Go to Edmonton, go to Toronto, see if they'll play your stuff there. And if they don't, then maybe it's not the program director that's being so harsh and unfair or whatever. Maybe it's the music itself. So when I hear artists who hit me up like 3 times in a week being like, how come my song's not being played? How come my song's not played? I'm like, is this the only station that you're actually submitting this to right now? Because we'll put you on in Winnipeg and you'll be a local celebrity, but that will not garnish you much in the long run. So if you're serious about your product, then you should know that, okay, this is great on a mainstream level and I can actually get out there. Because if you are an underground rapper, you shouldn't be worried about the radio spins, right? So that's just the contradictions. Absolutely, like that's the thing. Like there's just so many contradictions within it where like people will say that they represent this and whatever else, but then they're mad that they're not getting radio spins, and then like It's like, well, why do you want radio spins if you're
Yeah,
trying to be
yeah.
that dude? Like,
Yeah,
if you're trying to
yeah.
be Hobson,
Yeah,
if you're trying to be somebody who's not really like huge mainstream or whatever, then by all means, let that be. You can be that dude.
Yeah.
But then don't chirp at the radio being like, F the radio station because they're not giving us
Yeah.
spins. And it's like, huh?
Yeah.
Well, no. Like, we weren't going to give you spins because you told us that you didn't want to be on here.
Yeah.
Like, that's your steez, so.
Marcel Williams, we thank you very much for this interview. I think you said a lot of stuff that the kids can take away from. Not just kids, it's everybody we can take away from. So we thank you. Thank you to Streets, and we're over here at Streets. And that's when you can hear Marcel from what time to what time?
Monday to Friday, 6 to 11 o'clock. I'm equally as uncontroversial as I am in this interview right now. But if you guys want the uncensored stuff, definitely the Twitter at Marcel_Williams. And of course, look out for those stand-up rooms, because I'm doing them. Sporadically, but I'm doing them.
Marcel, thank you much, my man.
But thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. And stay tuned for the next episode of The Vibe Show. I'm your host, Troy Osiname, and we thank Marcel Williams again. And look out for Flo, because she's coming next. Thank you.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Say, kids, what time is it?
Bass.
You should